What an important and some would say a red letter day today in the annals of legal history of India. The Supreme Court of India today upheld unanimously the decision to abrogate Article 370. The court has ordered that 370 was never meant to be a permanent provision. It also said that the President's act in issuing a notification abrogating 370 was not mala fide in intent, and that the Constituent Assembly's view was not mandatory to be bound for the President. So, this gives the legal stamp of approval to consign Article 370 to the dustbins of history. But mainstream politicians from the Valley, whether it's Omar Abdullah or Mehbooba Mufti, are not coming to terms with this new reality. Will this verdict, today's verdict, cement one nation, one constitution, one rule of law from Kashmir to Kanyakumari?
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा था एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत, आज उस संकल्प को भी माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया ने प्रमाणित कर दिया है।
ये हमारी हार नहीं है, बल्कि आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया की हार, हिंदुस्तान के तस्वुर की हार।
मैं अपनी जगह ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि मामला यहाँ ख़त्म नहीं होगा, हमारी कोशिशें यहाँ ख़त्म नहीं होंगी।
All right, so the idea of the unity of India has been underlined in today's verdict. But what were the questions before this constitutional bench of the Supreme Court? The question number one was, the Article 370 of the Constitution, was it a temporary provision? The court has ruled unanimously that yes, it was a temporary provision meant for simply a transitional purpose. The question also before the bench was substitution of the Constituent Assembly with the Legislative Assembly, and in this case, since it was dissolved, with the view of the governor, was that valid? The ruling was that Jammu and Kashmir had surrendered any residual sovereignty the moment it decided to sign the instrument of accession and join the Union of India. Also, the question before the bench was, can the entire Indian Constitution be made applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, to which the court cited a letter by Karan Singh, the son of the former Maharaja Hari Singh, and I'll be interviewing Karan Singh later on in the program. In that letter, it had been proclaimed that the Indian Constitution would prevail over the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. Also, the ruling was that a merger similar to every other princely state, all those rules will apply, whether it was Junagadh or Hyderabad. There were other princely states that acceded to the Union of India. Also, the question was whether the President's action was legitimate on behalf of the Jammu and Kashmir legislature. Was that constitutionally valid? The court has said that Jammu and Kashmir does not enjoy internal sovereignty. The concept of internal sovereignty does not exist for any state, including that of Jammu and Kashmir. Also, the ruling was that the Constituent Assembly recommendations are not binding on the President. Now, the question was also whether the abrogation of Article 370 could happen during President's rule and whether that was ab initio null and void. The ruling was that the orders of the President were not found to be mala fide or an extraneous exercise of power, and therefore it is valid, it is upheld. The question before the bench was also, is Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act constitutionally valid? Because Article 370 provided it with certain exceptions. The ruling by the court today is that that question is invalid so long as the SG, the Solicitor General, has promised that statehood will be restored soon to Jammu and Kashmir. The court has also ordered that assembly elections have to happen by a deadline of 30th September 2024. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed the Supreme Court verdict today, and this is part of our Motorola India's best 5G smartphone brands tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
This is what the Prime Minister has tweeted, and I'm going to read from his tweet. Today's Supreme Court verdict on the abrogation of Article 370 is historic and constitutionally upholds the decision taken by the Parliament of India on the 5th of August 2019. It is a resounding declaration of hope, progress and unity for our sisters and brothers in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The court, in its profound wisdom, has also fortified the very essence of unity that we as Indians hold dear and cherish above all else. The verdict today is not just a legal judgment, it is a beacon of hope, a promise of a brighter future, and a testament to our collective resolve to build a newer, stronger, more united India. And that brings us to our debate topic tonight. Has unity been vindicated by today's order? And has separatism been defeated by this landmark ruling? Before we get to the debate, what Amit Shah, the Home Minister, said today in Parliament while speaking on the debate on the reorganization bill.
जम्मू कश्मीर के एसटी भाइयों के अधिकारों को कौन रोक कर, ये तीन परिवार रोक कर बैठे थे मान्यवर, जो 370 को एंजॉय कर 75 साल तक उनका अधिकार जो भारत के संविधान ने दिया था, कौन रोक कर बैठा था उसको? कौन रोक कर बैठा था? क्या कोई जवाब दे सकता है? जो आजादी के बाद भारत की रचना को जानते हैं उनको मालूम होगा हैदराबाद में इससे भी बड़ा प्रॉब्लम हुआ था। क्या जवाहरलाल जी गए थे? क्या जवाहरलाल नेहरू एक ही जगह काम देखते थे जम्मू कश्मीर में, जिसको आधा छोड़कर आ गए। जिसको जो बोलना है वो बोले। इस सदन में बोला हुआ शब्द इतिहास बनता है। मैं आज फिर से कहना चाहता हूं, पाक ऑक्यूपाई कश्मीर भारत का है, हमारा है और हमसे कोई नहीं छीन।
Hello, Moto.
Joining us on the talking point on the big debate tonight, RP Singh is national spokesperson of the BJP. Kuldeep Khoda will be joining us. He's former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. Zishan Javed Rana is spokesperson of the National Conference. Amit Raina, spokesperson for Roots in Kashmir. Ashish Dikshit is one of the respondents in this case. He's also now joining us. But let me start with you, Zishan Javed Rana. You know, both Mr. Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti seem to not come to terms with the verdict today by the Supreme Court, which is unanimous and it is unequivocal that Jammu and Kashmir will remain a part of India just like any other state. There are going to be no special provisions or special powers. The one thing there was Article 370, and that's been abrogated as the law stands today, and that's been held legally and constitutionally valid today by the Supreme Court.
See, Zaka, we have always believed that Jammu and Kashmir has always been an integral part of India. But certainly we say that we are disappointed today with the way things have unfolded. But it does not mean that that it's an end of the world for us, or it's of a road for us. We were hopeful that Honorable Supreme Court will restore the dignity and the identity of the people that was snatched illegally on August 5th, 2019. But the way things have unfolded in Honorable Supreme Court, I would say that we will go through the judgment and then decide of our future course of action.
But Mr. Zishan,
the
court, there were no dissenting judgments today. All five judges agreed. Yes, there was three separate judgments, but all five judges agreed that the manner of abrogation and the fact that 370 was never intended to be a permanent provision. What do you have to say to that?
See, Zaka just said that we will have to go through the judgment because it's a long judgment and we will go through it and decide our future course of action. But one thing is very clear. At the time when the instrument of exception was signed and the conditions were laid, things were pretty much clear. And Article 370 was made as a part of the constitution when Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India. And on the other day, I told you that we never merged with India. Jammu and Kashmir acceded with India. And that was the only condition. But now we respectfully disagree with the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court and we say that the National Conference will decide its future course of action in some time.
So the National Conference, the PDP, is still reluctant to accept the new reality. The political reality is one thing which happened on 5th August 2019. That has now got a legal stamp of approval that yes, it was constitutionally valid to abrogate Article 370, and the manner in which Parliament voted to abrogate Article 370 was constitutionally valid. But yet, the politics and the mainstream politicians of the Valley don't seem to accept. Is it that they've not come to terms with it, or is it that their politics dictates no other choice?
Your second point is valid, Jaka. Their politics dictate other point. Fact is that the court categorically said Article 370 was a temporary provision. This is the court verdict I am reading. And also that power of parliament and legislature for state cannot exclude law-making power. And also that no internal sovereignty for Jammu and Kashmir. I mean, this is there. I mean, there is part of the judgment, but they don't believe in the judiciary. You remember, Jaka, when 370 was abrogated, these parties said that we will not contest any election till the time 370, Article 370 is brought back, or we will boycott every election. All three Gupkar gang, including Congress party, said so there in the Kashmir Valley. But after the election result, which happened, which were the Panchayat elections and the Block Development Council elections, they changed their stance, because they saw they are losing ground. I mean, in both elections they lost ground. So they knew that if we boycott now, we will be nowhere. No one will ask, no one will follow us. And then this is happening today, that on ground people are not for 370 at all. They have seen how things have changed after abrogation of 370. How tourism has grown there, how the all those stone pelting. I have a data with me on the stone pelting and other incidents, which says that. Terrorist initiated incidents were 228 and now it is 30. Encounters was 190, is 24. The complete data on how terrorism has been tackled and how even the stone pelting has been tackled. It used to be almost 5,063 cases in 2019. Today is less than 400 cases, which is almost 10% of what it used to be in 2019.
तो चुनाव करा दीजिए ना आरपी सिंह साहब.
Things have changed
The essence of democracy. One of the judges also said today that the essence of democracy is elections.
I would like to
Elections
intervene.
करा
I would
दीजिए.
like to intervene.
One second,
I would
Zishan.
like to
Zishan,
intervene.
one second. I'll come back to you. Yeah. Let
Sir.
RP Singh finish.
I have not completed, sir. I have not completed, sir. So, चुनाव होंगे जाका 100% चुनाव होंगे. There were I told you there was Panchayati election and there were Block Development Council elections. They badly lost. They contested Block Development Council elections. They lost elections. In spite of that, they made a Gupkar gang and together they came together and contested elections. But that point aside, the issue is today both the parties are saying that we will contest elections. Election kara dijiye, we will contest election.
Okay.
So election honge. Now there is a deadline for elections that by 2024 September election has to happen. But let's remember. What was there in the root? What is the root cause of what is happening in Kashmir? The root cause were three families. Root cause were three dynasties. That's the problem. And then now there are new challengers in the valley. Mark my word, next elections there will be new challengers in the valley who challenge these three dynasties.
Okay, Ashish Dikshit, the court also today said that the president's action, and I believe you were one of the respondents in this case, the president's action was not mala fide. That the president was not bound by the opinion of the Constituent Assembly, and in this case, since there was no Constituent Assembly, the government and by extension the president was free to decide on the abrogation of an article of the Constitution of India. He or she was not bound by the opinion of the Constituent Assembly. That again was a critical part of the judgment, a critical part that was challenged by the petitioners in this case, whether the government of India and by extension the President of India had the powers to order that presidential proclamation, the Constitutional Order 273 as it's known, abrogating Article 370, and the court has said yes, absolutely, there was no extraneous overusage of power, neither was there any mala fide intent.
Good evening, Zaka. Zaka, in this case, the argument of the petitioners who had challenged the application of Article 370, they started with an absurdity in court and ended on an uncertainty. They said because the Constituent Assembly does not exist, the Parliament does not have the power to amend or take away Article 370. Even under Section Article 368, they said the Parliament does not have power. And when the court went ahead and said, are you saying that the Parliament, which is the supreme body of lawmaking, does not have this power? So they said, we are not sure, and in any case, that is not an issue. So that's why I say that it was an uncertain argument. The court has now very clearly said that the president had all the powers to take away take away or repeal the Article 370, the court further went one step ahead, that it was a policy decision taken by the highest body in this country, and the court cannot sit over and appeal over that decision. Plus, the petitioners were not able to demonstrate any malafide in the exercise that was conducted by the university. Therefore, in the totality of all the circumstances, the court found that the petitioners who had challenged the application of Article 70 have not satisfied the conscience of the court.
All right, Ashish, we'll try and fix your audio. I think there's some
illegal.
problem with the audio. We'll try and fix that in a second. Let me ask Mr. Kuldeep Khoda this as a former DGP. You know, one of the arguments that was cited by the government, and RP Singh gave out some figures as well, that 370 was an impediment as far as the security of Kashmir was concerned, and that because of 370, the terrorist incidents had gone up, stone pelting was up, and there is data that the Home Ministry has shared with Parliament about how these number of incidents has come down in the last 4 years, whether it's stone pelting, whether it's terrorist incidents, etc. Does this bear out the situation on the ground? Anecdotally, we're also seeing, you know, the nightlife is back, markets are open, tourists are back. But does that necessarily mean the security situation, and you are well aware of, you know, how tumultuous it was some years ago, the security situation has improved leaps and bounds on the ground? Mr. Khoda.
Absolutely, Rishabh. The uncertainty which was prevailing has been given a closure now. And this closure has it started with August 5, 2019 and has now been completed today with the Supreme Court verdict, which has held it valid conscientiously and as far as the legal position is also concerned. And, you know, any sort of uncertainty which was leads to instability. And this is what exactly was happening before 2019. The separatists and other people who had extraterritorial loyalties, the anti-nationals, all those who had who were advocating autonomy, and all those people have been now totally given a reply by the Supreme Court that the promulgation of August 5, 2019 is valid, and all these things should now be rested. It is now in the interest of the people of the Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, that the verdict of the Supreme Court should be taken in its positive way, and a forward movement should be taken in the direction of progress of the state. And the people have now realized that there is no more room for any sort of thinking that we can go sideways or we can have any other system of governance. So I think in all ways, it is a positive development.
Amit Raina is also joining us. Amit Raina, one of the judges, Sanjay Kishan Kaul, in fact also recommended the formation of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, much like what we saw in South Africa after apartheid. This in the context of Kashmiri Pandits who were forced to flee, so was your family. Do you welcome this, and do you believe that this will actually help in truth and reconciliation, or is this a measure too little too late?
See, I, on behalf of my organization, had gone to Supreme Court few years back, in fact even this year also, asking for something very similar to what Justice Kaul has said in his order. And surprisingly, the then Chief Justice in his wisdom chose to give a time bar on crimes against humanity, which was very unusual and unheard of anywhere in the judicial system. So today's Supreme Court in this landmark judgment of 370, when it talks about the generational trauma the Kashmiris have seen and asked for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, while I don't agree Truth and Reconciliation Commission will be the right way to handle it, but it still is a welcome approach. At least the system of this country, the judiciary of this country, which till few months back was not even willing to acknowledge what has gone wrong in Kashmir, that there are victims of terrorism, there are victims of there are genocidal victims in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Kashmir Valley, has today taken that step forward and has acknowledged that the victims of terrorism in Kashmir need justice, and the people need the wounds to be healed. So it's definitely a welcome step. Now coming back.
Yeah, go
Now
on.
coming back to the way Zishan responded to your question, I can understand. My dear friend Zishan is confused today because for the 70 years, his party has done divisive politics in Jammu and
I am
Kashmir.
not
They
confused.
have
My
always
position is
created
clear.
yeah, yeah.
My
I'm not.
position is clear.
I'm
So
not
I am
disputing.
not confused. I am still
I'm not.
saying that we never merged. We acceded with
I'm
India. We never
One sec.
merged.
Let
My
Amit
position is
finish.
still
Zishan,
clear.
I'll come to you. Let him finish, and then I'll give you a chance to respond. Yeah, Amit.
For 70 years, they have played divisive politics. For 70 years, they told us Kashmiris that in case Article 370 gets abrogated, you will lose your identity, the development will take a hit, India will overpower us, Kashmir will no longer be Kashmir. They did not tell them that we need this 370 to ensure that the shakedom of the Abdullah family continues. And that is today exactly the way Umar Abdullah has reacted and Zishan has reacted, even Sarah has reacted, clearly tells you that they do not know how to take it forward. See, one has to look at it. It is not only the verdict of Supreme Court which endorses abrogation of Article 370. One needs to understand that the elections, the last big elections, which were of Zilla Panchayat, the BJP has been historically and saying that abrogation of Article 370 is must, and they stand by it. They won even in the DDC elections where the entire Gupkar alliance fought elections together. Even then, their vote share was more than the Gupkar alliance. So you have people's endorsement, you have judiciary's endorsement, you have the highest temple in democracy, parliament's endorsement. So if
So,
does not smell
let me
coffee,
ask
then
Zishan
they are
this.
lost.
Zishan, one of the things that's been absolutely underlined in today's verdict, and it's a unanimous 5-judge concurring judgment, is the idea of the unity of India. And when the court says once the instrument of accession was signed, there is no residual sovereignty for a state. The sovereignty is to the Union of India. There can't be sovereignty for Kerala and sovereignty for Maharashtra and sovereignty for Jammu and Kashmir. The sovereignty is that of India, that of the Union of India. So 370 put up this whole facade, or 370 was this unreal mechanism where one state had a differential set of rules compared to 28 other states in the Indian Union.
See, Zaka, the other day I told you the same thing, that when Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India, we had an option. We could have gone to Pakistan because our leader rejected the two-nation theory.
I haven't
We
understood who
were a
is
Muslim
we.
majority
Sorry.
state. Now let me complete. Amit bhai,
No,
please
who
let
is
me
we?
do
No,
not
I am
intervene.
also
Let
we.
me complete.
I am
Let me
also
complete.
we.
Let me complete.
Ishan
Please,
Rana, I am also
please.
we.
We were a Muslim.
Neither
We were
I
a Muslim
signed the
majority
accession,
state.
neither
We
you
had
signed
an
the accession.
option.
The
We
accession
could
was
have gone
signed
to
by Maharashtra,
Pakistan,
Jammu and
but
Kashmir.
we
What is
chose
we?
we
You can
chose
we.
India.
Neither I signed it, neither you signed it.
I will not be able
The
to. I will
person who
not be able to
signed it,
speak.
No,
he
I
signed
will
it.
not
You
be
Amit,
able
one
to
second,
speak.
let him finish. Amit, one second, let him finish. No,
I
no,
will not
but
be able to
I
speak.
find this argument problematic, Zishan, that just because you are a Muslim majority state, you had the option of going to Pakistan. Now, Hyderabad.
that is a fact.
No, no,
That
one
is a
second,
fact, Zaka.
one second. Hyderabad was also ruled by a Muslim king. It was a princely kingdom run by a Muslim king. They also had the option of going
that was a
with
Hindu.
Pakistan.
But Hyderabad was a
Junagadh also had the option of going with Pakistan. No, no,
But
please.
Hyderabad was a Hindu
Let's not, hyper equalize here. The fact of the matter is, one second. The fact of the matter is, hear me out. Just 10 seconds. Fact of the matter is, an instrument of accession was signed by Maharaja Hari Singh. The moment a princely state accedes to the Union of India, then as per today's court order, the concept of sovereignty for a state does not exist. The sovereignty is to the Union of India. Sovereignty can't be for Jammu and Kashmir and for Bengal and for Maharashtra.
I just said that you said that Junagadh and Hyderabad were Hindu dominated states, whereas Jammu and Kashmir was a Muslim majority state. We had an option. We could have gone to Pakistan, but I said with pride that we chose India. Our leader chose India, and this was when the instrument of accession was signed in 1947. We were given this option, and when the Constituent Assembly of India they gave Article 370. They promised that Jammu and Kashmir will be a special state, and that is why the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was convened in 1951. And now,
see again, there is a fundamental dichotomy. One second, RP Singh also please weigh in on this. There is a fundamental digression, dichotomy, which people have tolerated for the last 70 years. Every party, irrespective of which party is in power at the center, you know, we always ad nauseum keep saying Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India, integral part of India, integral part of India. How can a state be an integral part and only that state have a special provision of the Constitution? No other state has that special provision of the Constitution. If it's an integral part, it has to have the same rights and benefits as every other state. 370 is not there for Andhra Pradesh or for Maharashtra or for Uttar Pradesh or for Punjab for that matter. RP Singh.
Zaka, please ask him to go through the instrument of accession for all states. It was just on the dotted line, same. No comma, no full stop, nothing has been changed in any of the instrument of accession. But yes, 370 was given as a temporary thing.
Northeastern states.
Sir, give
Why
me a
do you have
second,
special
sir.
provisions for those
The rulers of that time, it is the mistake. It was the mistake committed by Pandit Nehru. I didn't want to politicize it. It was a mistake committed by Pandit Nehru.
That was a mistake, then rectify it.
So we have rectified it. We have rectified it. Yes, yes, we have rectified it. We have rectified it. So we have rectified it, sir, and then the court has put a stamp on it. We have rectified it and the court has put a stamp on it. And it's in the welfare of the Kashmiri and welfare of the Jammu Kashmir. It's in the welfare of the Kashmir and Jammu Kashmir.
You have to accept it. But it is a Muslim majority state, and that's why you're doing it.
Sir,
No. One second. Again, I find this argument very problematic. Very problematic because by that logic, Zishan, you are saying that religion should be the only basis for nationhood. That religion should be the reason why people come together. No, I'm sorry. I don't buy that argument at all.
I clarified my position.
India is the most notable example. India is the most notable example of a country where religion is not the binding factor.
But that does not mean
we are Indian because of our sabhyata, because of who we are, because of our history. We are not Indian because of A religion or B religion or C religion. To say that you are Kashmiri, you had the option of going to Pakistan because you are a Muslim is a completely flawed argument. And may I suggest, and I know people, people will take offense to it. That's a very bigoted argument to take. Nationhood of this country is not founded on religion of the individual.
This was the only condition.
No, I'm sorry.
The country was divided into two nations. No, I have nothing. I just have
one
to say.
When he said, one second. If religion were the basis, East Pakistan also used religion as basis to join Pakistan. What happened to that country? Tell me what happened to that country. It ceased to exist. My point is
he said that
to use religion as a fundamental foundation for nationhood is a very problematic argument. I completely do not accept that.
Is that if you are giving
Ashish Dixit, Amit Raina. One second. Then Kashmir should be by the same logic. One second. Kashmir by that same logic should be called Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan. You guys pride yourselves, for the longest time I heard Kashmiriyat. What is Kashmiriyat? Was Kashmiriyat just for all Muslims in Kashmir? Come on. What is this logic? Ashish Dixit. But I think one of the points that was, I guess it will get raised through the course of the next few weeks and months and years, is and I completely agree with the Supreme Court's contention that if you have a union of states, if you have a union that is India, every state should be treated equal. And 370 per force was treating one state differently from the others. What may then happen to 371? Because there are states in the northeast which also have special provisions. Does the ab initio null and void of 370 also means now that the spotlight will be on 371? Ashish.
Zaka, as first, let me deal with this integrity argument. See, even before the Supreme Court, no one had challenged that Kashmir is not an integral part of India. If you read Article 3 of Constitution of Jammu Kashmir, I'm not asking about Indian Constitution. Constitution of Jammu says that Kashmir is an integral part of India. So for my friend from NC to say that Kashmir is not an integral part, or it has an option.
When did I say that? When did I say that?
It had the option.
I said.
Pakistan at that.
I said Jammu and Kashmir is
Zishan, one second.
When
Zishan,
did
one
I
second.
say
You've
that?
spoken. Let him speak, please. Yeah, Ashish. Yeah.
Now the problem. Now the situation is this: that Article 370 was introduced for a very limited purpose, and the union government thought that the purpose has been solved, and there is no longer need of continuing with the article. The court has upheld that reasoning. The only challenge was that there was no existence of Constituent Assembly. So therefore, the Parliament was not within the powers. This argument has also been completely brushed aside by the Supreme Court. So for now, the controversy surrounding around Article 370 has completely been closed. There is no chance of this article coming back legally. This is what is the current situation now.
Okay. Amit Raina, again, you know, why I go back to the order today, and I keep stressing this, it was a unanimous, all 5 judges gave a concurring view on this. The underlying factor, and I think the Prime Minister's tweet also sort of highlights this, is unity. Unity of India is supreme. And in the unity of India, you cannot have a situation where individual states consider themselves to be sovereign or individual states exercise sovereignty. That is a dichotomous situation. And this argument that Zishan has said that we had the option to go to Pakistan because we were Muslims, I find that argument completely problematic. It's fraught with risk, because by that logic, tomorrow somebody can say that, oh, America is only for Christians or England is only for Christians. How does that even work?
You're misquoting me.
Yeah,
You're misquoting me.
Yeah, nationhood is not based on just a person's religion.
That is exactly the reason that the state is unique, because it has 2.5 million displaced people. People from POJK and Kashmiri Pandit who have faced genocide. That is what makes this state unique. The mindset that Zishan Rana represents, the National Conference mindset, and that is exactly why 370 needed to be abrogated. Because behind this 370, they kept on building an Islamic state within a secular state of India, within the Republic of India. They went on saying that the Kashmir belongs only to the Muslims, and that is why they persecuted and forced exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. That is exactly, Zishan Rana is exactly demonstrating why 370 needed to be abrogated and what has happened for the last 70 years in Kashmir. The Honorable Chief Justice, while delivering the verdict today, clearly said that the Article 370 was temporary, came in because of the war which Pakistan waged on Jammu and Kashmir, on India, and was temporary. Even after that, he goes and says, we. Who is we? Am I not the we? I am saying we are part of India. Why does he exclude me? Because he does not believe that I have a right to live, I have a right to exist. And that is exactly the reason I was thrown out. And that is why when you asked me the question on Justice Kaul's statement on Truth and Reconciliation Statement Commission, the fact is that we have not committed any crime. There is no reconciliation from our side because we have not done anything wrong. What needs to be done in Jammu and Kashmir is that you need to set up a genocide commission, the way Nuremberg trials had happened, and then that is the way you have to punish the people, because the current IPC and CRPCs are not enough to punish people like Farooq Abdullah, who released 70 terrorists so that the genocide of minorities can happen.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Like I said, I keep coming back to the verdict. The verdict was historic. It's not just giving a stamp of approval to a decision taken by the Parliament of India. And I don't think in a democracy like ours, there's any greater institution which represents the will of the people than Parliament of India. And the Parliament took that decision. There were constitutional questions that were asked of the court. There was legal validity that was asked of the court. And the court said, yes, it was legally valid. It's constitutionally upheld the abrogation of Article 370. And fundamentally, the idea of the unity of India can only be one. You cannot have divisions within that. You cannot have separate rules for separate states within that. because every state, its relationship with the union has to be one and the same. And today's verdict ensures that, at least in the case of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, I want to move on to a guest who's joining us, a very special guest whose reference was also made today, by the way, as Chief Justice Chandrachud was pronouncing his judgment. Dr. Karan Singh is the son of late Maharaja Hari Singh and former Member of Parliament and Union Minister. Thank you very much, Dr. Karan Singh, for speaking with us. How do you see today's verdict? Do you feel that this will finally put an end to the controversy surrounding the integration of Jammu and Kashmir to mainland India, the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to mainland India? The court has said categorically that after the IOA was signed, there's no question arising of any residual sovereignty of Jammu and Kashmir.
Well, you've asked two or three questions together. I have welcomed the judgment because it has ended an uncertainty that was hanging over the whole thing. It'll probably end controversies to a large extent, but no controversies are ever sort of finished forever, because there are always people who will try and raise it. But as far as the question of the state's relationship with the centre, that I think has now been firmly fixed.
What will you say to those people who are still adamant, who are not ready to accept the judgment today? We can have political debates galore in this country, but ultimately, you know, the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land, and when it opines and when it puts out an order, unanimous order of all 5 judges, do you think a line should be drawn? For example, mainstream politicians in the valley and across party lines, Mehbooba Mufti, Omar Abdullah, Ghulam Nabi Azad, who was with the Congress, not with the Congress anymore, they are refusing to accept the verdict, saying it's unfortunate and that the people of Jammu and Kashmir have been cheated, but they have to accept. It's almost like, you know, this albatross around the neck that they have to accept. What would you say to that?
Well, Ghulam Nabi has his own thing to say, but let me see, and again let me stress that I am speaking in my personal capacity, not on behalf of the Congress, that I know there will be a section of people in the state, a section of people who may not be happy, but my advice to them is, very sincere advice is, that there is no point now not accepting reality.
Okay.
For all constitutional purposes, the matter is now closed. So I would urge them to turn their energies towards the elections rather than towards an agitation regarding the relationship.
One of the judges who also authored a separate judgment today, even though it was concurring with the main judgment, was Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, who recommended a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, much like what we saw in South Africa in the 1990s, to report human rights violations both by state and non-state actors through the tumultuous 90s period, where a lot of Kashmiri Hindus were forced to flee. There was the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. Do you feel the time is ripe for such a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Jammu and Kashmir?
Yes, it's a very good idea. I commend Justice Kaul. I've known this Kaul's family for 3 generations. They are a very distinguished family in Kashmir. And his idea of a truth and reconciliation based upon what happened in South Africa is very important, provided you can get the correct people and the correct structure to do it. And it is something that is worth trying, shall I say.
And what may this mean, Dr. Karan Singh? It's coming barely a few months before the 2024 general election. The abrogation of Article 370 has been a cornerstone for the BJP for the last 30, 40 years. They've put it in practically every manifesto of theirs for the last 3-4 decades. Do you see this judgment as a major electoral boost for the Modi government before 2024?
Well, I suppose you could say that, because this is also was in their agenda. Like the Ram Mandir was in the agenda, this was also one of the items of their manifesto. So to that extent, yes, you can say that they can claim a victory. Although I don't think that Jammu and Kashmir must necessarily be dragged into every election. I think we should leave it alone for a while now.
All right, Dr. Karan Singh, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave you also alone for a while. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18 on such an important day for the state of Jammu and Kashmir and in fact for the Union of India and the relationship of various states to the Union of India. Mahesh Jethmalani is a leading lawyer of the Supreme Court, also Rajya Sabha member of Parliament. He's now joining us. Thank you very much, Mahesh Jethmalani, for speaking with us. You've seen the mainstream politicians, the mainstream political parties in the Kashmir Valley saying that, you know, we are disappointed with the verdict, we're not disheartened, the fight is not over. As far as the legal battle itself is concerned, I'll come to the political in a second, but as far as the legal battle is concerned, is there any more elbow room left for any kind of legal challenge to today's decision?
Well, I mean, they can try a review, but I don't think anything is going to succeed because the Supreme Court has been very clear. So I don't know on what basis they are going to, even present a review, on what grounds they're going to do it. So I think there's if you want an empty formality of a challenge by way of a review, that's technically possible, but I don't think it has any chance of success.
The court also very categorically today said that in its view, the Article 370 was always meant to be a temporary provision, and that's why it was put in one part of the Constitution which dealt with temporary provisions. And yet for 70 years, Mahesh Jethmalani, the narrative in the valley was that the only thing connecting Kashmir to mainland India was 370. This was like a bridge. And if 370 went, then the relationship between Kashmir and the rest of India would be cut off. It was almost like they believed 370 was cast in stone, forgetting that it was just an article of the Constitution of India. It can be amended / edited / omitted at any point of time, as has been validated by the court today.
The Supreme Court stated what was so explicit and clear in the very heading of 370. The title to Article 370 comes under a chapter saying temporary provision for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So the whole argument was misconceived, and you can keep trying your argument and keep trying your luck, and if you believe that justice is a lottery, which is what they seem to believe, and it's not based on cast iron precedents, then you can keep doing it and wasting the time of the court. But I think that now we've had the last word on it. It's been a marathon argument. It went on for many days, right? And the Supreme Court has given a very clear enunciation of what its construction of the Constitution is. So I don't think there's any scope for re-agitating anything. And they may say anything, they may remain disgruntled, but I don't think that disgruntlement can lead to any success in the future, at least legally.
Okay. And a final word, you were also there in Parliament in the Rajya Sabha today when the Home Minister spoke on the reorganization bill, and he also spoke about the blunders made by Pandit Nehru in the context of 370. Do you think there is a need to look back at the history of that time and to have a better and perhaps more correct understanding of why Article 370 was inserted in the Constitution and the role that Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah played in creating that special provision of the Constitution?
Well, I think the history needs to be, congressmen and those who support them need to know the real history. This was a tragic disaster. I mean, what befell upon Kashmir, of Jammu and Kashmir, and the sort of acrimony over the years, the divisions, the intermeddling by Pakistan, the ISI's efforts to have cross-border terrorism, all those could have been avoided, very frankly, if Nehru had not made some Himalayan blunders, right, as he did in the case of China. And if he had, if he had somebody like Sardar Patel at the helm, there's no question about it. I mean, for one thing, the most obvious glaring error is, why did Pandit Nehru take the whole issue on his own to the UN? Why did he internationalize the issue of Jammu and Kashmir and lead to a UN resolution? Fortunately, Pakistan did not withdraw the troops, as you know, as was when they had invaded Kashmir and still continue to occupy it illegally, POK. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, that resolution has made no sense because of Pakistani intransigence because their withdrawal of troops from the part they had illegally occupied was a precondition to the operation of that resolution.
All right, now, Mahesh Jethmalani, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, their constitutional lawyer and of course, Member of Parliament, giving us his thoughts on the big verdict by the Supreme Court today. There's also a security aspect to this, and I earlier in the day spoke with Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dillon. He used to be the head of the Chinar Corps, which is the Army's regiment that mans Kashmir and which is tasked with the detail of security and holding security in Kashmir. And he had a chat with the Home Minister before the abrogation was publicly announced and Parliament did so on the 5th of August 2019. He narrates that entire incident to us today on a day when the Supreme Court has validated the abrogation of Article 370. So listen in to this fascinating conversation with the man who used to head Kashmir's security till before the Article 370 was abrogated, and at the time that it was abrogated, and how he and his team ensured that security was maintained in Kashmir and that there was no kind of mutiny either within the security establishment in Kashmir or even amongst the general public. Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dillon, retired former GOC in C of the 15 Corps, is now joining us. General Dillon, this must be a big, happy moment for you personally as well, because you've served in Kashmir many years and you've seen firsthand the perils of Article 370. What does today's verdict mean for you?
Good afternoon, Jacka, and good afternoon to all your viewers. Yes, absolutely. It's a very historic day and a very historic moment. Although, on the 5th of August 2019, the justice was delivered. Today it has only been confirmed by the Honorable Supreme Court of India. And it is, today's verdict is a victory of people of Kashmir, the youth of Kashmir who are looking forward to a brighter future, and total integration of state of Jammu and Kashmir with the Union of India. So it's a great day, a very historic day. And since I was part of the implementation of the abrogation of Article 370, as you said, as Chinar Corps Commander, it's personally a great moment for me and personally a great day for me. And situation in the last 4.5 years has really improved. I'm sure it's going to improve further. And we are going to see a very peaceful Kashmir, very progressive Kashmir. And more importantly, the people of Kashmir are going to be reaping the dividends of peace, and they are going to be the stakeholders in progress and economic well-being of the people of Kashmir.
General Dillon, for the longest time, for the last 70 years, it was said 370 is the only thing that's connecting Kashmir to the rest of India. You remove 370, there'll be rivers of blood. That was a phrase that one of the MPs used during the debate that happened on 5th of August 2019. None of that happened. Today, the Supreme Court, a constitution bench, the highest court of the land, has also validated the decision by Parliament to abrogate 370. Did everyone just misread what was going to happen in Kashmir, or was it part of a sustained, organized propaganda and an ecosystem which, benefited because of it, monetarily and otherwise, which wanted to keep the status quo going?
Absolutely. You use the word which I always use. There was an ecosystem existing in the then state of Jammu and Kashmir, which did not want the peace to return, which did not want the progress in the state, it did not want the education for the students, because then only they can propagate their propaganda or their mission, which is the radicalization and keeping the disturbance. Now, after 5th of August 2019, that ecosystem, which involved certain local politicians, which involved ISI, which involved Hurriyat, which involved terrorists, which also involved certain NGOs, as also certain vernacular press. So that ecosystem did not want the peace to return. Now, that ecosystem is the most hurt today, whereas the people of Kashmir, you just imagine before 5th of August 2019, the schools used to open only for about, or they used to remain closed for 280 days because the ecosystem called for hartals. Today, schools are open all 365 days other than the official holidays. Now, the child who was not getting good education could not compete for better higher education, and he was a cannon fodder for the radicals to enroll him as a terrorist and die in an encounter in a day or a week or 3 months.
Yeah.
Today, getting good education. Today, the tourists are coming. People are earning more. The hospitals are open. All the flights are going full. All the hotel bookings are full. The sumo chap is able to pay his EMI and make good earning for his life, family. The fruit growers and the handicraft people, everyone is happy. I have been speaking to so many of them. They are saying, sir, gurbat ke din khatam ho gaye. These are the phrases a common Kashmiri using कि सब गुर्बत के दिन खत्म हो गए, and now they're looking forward to a खुशहाल Kashmir. And I always say, economics will drive peace, and that time has come. Now that legal things are behind us, now the economics will drive peace in Kashmir.
So my colleague Rahul Shivshankar is also here. He wants to ask you a question, General Dhillon.
General Dhillon, very good afternoon to you. Remember, we spoke when I was writing this book, which is now available, of course. I'm plugging it unabashedly. But Dhillon Saab, you said that at that time, before this consequential decision was taken, you and the Home Minister had some conversations. There were some inputs that you gave. You've written about it, of course, in your own book. Can you give us a little bit of a sense of the build-up to the historic move on the 5th of August?
As we are all aware, before 5th of August 2019, say about 2 to 3 months before that, after the 2019 election, the results were out, there was a buzz in the media and in the environment that something big is going to happen in Kashmir. Some people are talking of 35A alone, some people are talking of trifurcation or bifurcation, but no one was very clear as to what's going to happen. Now, this meeting which you referred to, which I have detailed in my book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, and you have also, I was reading your book yesterday, you have also quoted an excerpt from my book and your book in the very first chapter.
Yes, sir.
And this meeting happened, Honorable Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah was visiting Jammu and Kashmir on 26th and 27th of June 2019. That is roughly 40 days prior to the abrogation final declaration. So on 26th of June 2019 in Srinagar, we had a lot of meetings with the Home Minister. The last meeting finished around 11:30, 12 in the night. When I got back home at 2 o'clock, I get a call that tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, there is a breakfast meeting with the Home Minister. So I said, fine. 3 o'clock, I get another call which says, what would you like to have for breakfast? So my answer was, whatever is offered, whatever everyone else will have, I will have that only. Now that is when I was told, it's a one-on-one meeting and there will be no third person in that meeting. So anyway, I reached at 7 in the morning. Of course, there were dhoklas, there were aloo ka parathas, and there were a lot of many other things on the table, which started from, if we take some historic decision, what will be the situation inside the valley? What will be the situation in the local security forces personnel? Will there be a mutiny? How will we tackle it? Will there be a uprising? How will we tackle it? Will there be total shutdown of the Kashmir Valley as happened after that terrorist was killed a few years ago? What will be the state on the line of control? How will Pakistan react? What can be our contingencies, our exigencies? Without going into the nitty-gritties or the actual confidential details about it, each and everything which can happen or how we will handle it was discussed in that meeting. And after that meeting lasted about 40-45 minutes. So the parting words of the Home Minister were, he asked me, so what is your final say? So my reply was, sir, अगर किसी ने इतिहास लिखना है, तो किसी ना किसी को इतिहास बनाना पड़ेगा. You have to create history if you want to write history. And I'm so happy on the 5th of August 2019, the history was created. You have written about it, I have written about it, and I'm very proud that I was part of that history.
All right.
And in the last statement he asked me was, कि जन साहब, जिम्मेवारी किसकी है? So I, with all the decision making at my command and at the background which I had, I said the team security forces will make sure nothing goes wrong. And I gave my word that we will make sure nothing goes wrong. And in the hindsight, a lot of people can say a lot of things, but to say it up front 40 days prior to the abrogation declaration that nothing will go wrong was a decision which had the full backing of the team security forces of that day, which included Army, Jammu Kashmir Police, CRPF, intelligence agencies, civil administration, and most importantly, the will of the people of Kashmir. They wanted, to break free from these shackles. So that historic decision of 5th of August, I was made privy to it in a way on 27th of June 2019 early morning.
All right, General, as they say, the rest is history. It really is. And kudos to you and your team, because for the last 4 years, as people had predicted and made these dire predictions about, rivers of blood, etc. None of that has happened. In fact, it is a new dawn in Kashmir, and by any account, even when you speak to, mainstream politicians there, they do accept that yes, life, everyday life has certainly changed. Markets are open, schools are open, colleges are open. So thank you very much, Dhilo Saab, for joining us.